Jenny Kim sat at her desk in SmartOffice, typing on her computer. She felt scared because Jack White was coming towards her desk. He was the mean team leader who had been bothering her for months. It was early Monday morning, and most people were just coming to work with their coffee cups. "Look who's here early again, our special worker," Jack said loudly so others could hear. Jenny tried to ignore him and kept working. She needed her work to be perfect, so Jack wouldn't have any reason to be mean to her. Jenny was really good at her job. She had done well in college and worked at big computer company for 3 years before coming to SmartOffice. The company boss, Mr. Smith, hired her because she was the best person for the job. But Jack, who had worked there for 15 years, always tried to make her feel bad. When Jenny opened her work file for the big meeting, she saw something was wrong. Someone had changed the numbers in her file from what she saved on Friday. Her heart started beating fast. The changes were small, but they would make her look bad in front of the boss. She had only 45 minutes before she had to show this work to everyone. Jenny looked around and saw Jack drinking coffee nearby, smiling at her in a mean way. He was talking to Bill from the money team, and they kept looking at her. But Jenny was smart. After her work got messed up 3 months ago, she started keeping copies of all her work at home. She also put a special program on her computer that showed who changed her files and when they did it. While Jenny was fixing her work, she got a message from Mary Brown, who worked in HR, the office that deals with worker problems. "Come to my office now. Bring proof if you have any." Jenny hadn't told anyone about Jack being mean to her yet, but this meeting seemed important. What Jenny didn't know was that something much bigger was happening at SmartOffice. Jack being mean to her was just a small part of it. There were hidden cameras in the office, people stealing company secrets, and a group of bad workers planning something big. Jenny's younger brother Tommy, who fixed computers at SmartOffice, had found something strange in the company's computer system last week. He hadn't told Jenny yet, but what he found would surprise everyone. Even Mr. Smith, who everyone thought was a nice boss, was hiding big secrets. As Jenny walked to Mary's office holding her folder of proof, she didn't know that by the end of the week, everything at SmartOffice would change. Some people would lose their jobs, some would go to jail, and some quiet workers would become heroes. The story was about to get very interesting. Jenny walked into Mary Brown's office feeling nervous. Mary asked her to close the door and sit down. On Mary's desk, Jenny saw pictures of herself at her desk, showing Jack standing behind her with an angry face. Jenny was surprised. She didn't know who took these pictures. "Someone left these under my door this morning," Mary said kindly. "Jenny, why didn't you tell us about Jack before?" Just then, Jenny's phone buzzed. It was a message from her brother Tommy. "Don't tell HR anything yet. Come to the computer room now. Very important." Jenny's hands were shaking. Can I have 5 minutes? I need to get something from my desk," she told Mary. Mary nodded, looking worried. In the computer room, Tommy looked scared. He pulled Jenny to a corner where nobody could hear them. "Look what I found," he whispered, showing her his computer screen. There were emails between Jack and someone called Big Boss, talking about stealing company secrets. But what shocked Jenny most was seeing Mr. Smith's name in the email. He knew about Jack being mean to workers. "That's not all," Tommy said. "Remember Sarah from the front desk who quit last month? She didn't quit. They fired her because she found out something big." Tommy showed Jenny a video from the office security camera. It showed Sarah working late one night when she saw Jack and Mr. Smith putting something in the office walls. Just then, they heard footsteps coming towards the computer room. Tommy quickly closed the file. Bill from the money team walked in, but something was different about him. He wasn't smiling like usual. "I've been looking for you, Jenny," Bill said, closing the door behind him. "I know you have copies of your work at home. That's against company rules." Jenny felt scared. How did he know about her backup file? Then she realized they must have been checking her computer. But Bill surprised them. He pulled out his phone and showed them his police badge. "I'm not really an accountant," he said quietly. "I'm Detective Bill Carter. I've been working undercover at SmartOffice for 6 months. We think Jack and Mr. Smith are part of a group that steals secrets from companies and sells them." Jenny and Tommy looked at each other in shock. Detective Bill continued, "Those pictures in Mary's office, I took them. I needed proof of how Jack treats people. But now, we have a bigger problem. We think Mr. Smith is planning to sell SmartOffice's biggest secret, the new computer program that would make the company lots of money." Suddenly, they heard a loud crash from upstairs. The fire alarm started ringing, and people began running everywhere. Through the computer room window, they saw Jack running to his car carrying a black bag. "Stay here," Detective Bill said, running out. But Jenny remembered something important. She had seen that black bag before, in Mr. Smith's office last week. Inside it was a hard drive with all of SmartOffice's secret program. What nobody knew was that Mary Brown had seen everything too. She wasn't just an HR person. She had her own secret. And in exactly 10 minutes, something would happen that would change everyone's lives forever. The fire alarm was still ringing, but it wasn't because of a fire. Someone had set it off on purpose. and Tommy's computer suddenly showed something very strange. All the company's files were being deleted, one by one. Just when things couldn't get more crazy, Jenny's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Sarah, the fired front desk worker. "I know what's in the walls. Meet me in the parking lot in 5 minutes. Don't trust anyone, even Detective Bill." Jenny's heart was beating fast as she ran to the parking. The fire alarm was still ringing, and people were rushing out of the building. She looked around for Sarah, but couldn't see her anywhere. Then her phone buzzed. "Behind the blue truck," Sarah's message said. Jenny found Sarah hiding behind an old blue truck. She looked different from when she worked at Smartoff. Her hair was short now, and she was wearing dark glasses. "We don't have much time," Sarah whispered. "They're going to destroy everything in 20 minutes. "What's in the walls?" Jenny asked quickly. Sarah pulled out her phone and showed Jenny a video. "Look at this," she said. "Last month, I stayed late to finish some work. I saw Jack and Mr. Smith putting these small black boxes in the wall. They looked like computer parts, but different. Later that night, I checked the walls with my phone's camera, and I saw something scary. The boxes were copying all the company's secret information. Suddenly, they heard a loud voice. "Don't move!" It was Detective Bill, pointing his police badge at them. But then something very strange happened. Mary from HR appeared behind him, also holding a badge. "FBI," she said. "Bill, you're under arrest." Jenny and Sarah couldn't believe their eyes. Mary wasn't really an HR person. She was an FBI agent. "Bill isn't a real detective," Mary explained quickly. "He's working with Jack and Mr. Smith. They're all part of a group that steals company secrets and sells them to other countries." Just then, Tommy came running from the building. "Jenny, the files! They're all coming back!" he shouted. "Someone stopped them from being deleted, and I know who did it. It was Peter." Peter was the quiet janitor who always smiled at everyone, but never talked much. Nobody paid attention to him, but he had been watching everything. He used to work for a big computer security company before coming to Smart Office. He had been secretly protecting the company's computers all along, but they had no time to talk. Mary's phone started beeping. "The black boxes in the walls are sending out all our secret files right now," Sarah said. "We have 15 minutes before they finish copying everything." "Wait," Jenny remembered something important. "Last week I saw Jack typing a password on his phone. I remember the numbers because they were my birthday backward." She told them the password, and Mary quickly typed it into her special FBI computer. Suddenly, all the lights in Smart Office went out. In the dark parking lot, they saw 3 people running towards a black car. It was Jack, Mr. Smith, and surprisingly, Linda from the coffee shop. Linda had been part of their plan all along, listening to everyone's secrets while serving coffee. But Peter the janitor had one more surprise. He hadn't just been protecting the computers. He had also put his own hidden cameras in every trash can in the office. He had videos of everything Jack and his friends had done. Then Jenny's phone buzzed with a message from a strange number. "Your brother Tommy is in the basement. If you want to see him again, bring all the proof you have to the old factory behind Smart Office. Come alone." The message was from someone they hadn't suspected at all. And in the basement, Tommy had just discovered the biggest secret of all, something that would shock everyone at Smart Office, even the FBI. "We need to save Tommy," Jenny said. "But there's something you all need to know first." She opened her work bag and pulled out an old photograph that changed everything they thought they knew about Smart Office. Everyone gathered around as Jenny pulled out the old photograph. In it, they saw Mr. Smith when he was younger, standing next to Linda from the coffee shop. But Linda looked exactly the same as she did now, even though the photo was from 20 years ago. Even more shocking, behind them was a sign that said, "Secret Tech Lab," the company that had tried to steal Smart Office's secrets last year. "That's not all," Jenny said, her hands shaking. "Look at the little girl in the photo." She pointed to a small child standing between Mr. Smith and Linda. "That's me. Linda is my aunt, but she disappeared when I was 5 years old. I didn't recognize her at the coffee shop because I thought she was dead." Mary, the FBI agent, grabbed her phone. "This changes everything. Linda isn't just helping them steal secrets. She's the one running the whole thing." But before she could call for help, all their phones suddenly went dead. Someone was blocking the phone signals. "Tommy first, then we deal with Linda," Jenny said firmly. They ran to the basement door, but Peter the janitor stopped them. "Wait," he whispered. "I know another way in. The old tunnels." Peter led them to a closet full of cleaning supplies. He moved some boxes and revealed a small door in the floor. "These tunnels connect all the buildings around here," he explained. "I found them my first week as janitor." As they crawled through the dark tunnels, Sarah whispered what she knew. "Those black boxes in the walls? They're not just copying files. They're part of a bigger machine. Linda's company has been trying to build something called the Time Box. That's why she still looks young in the old photo." Suddenly, they heard Tommy's voice above them. Through a crack in the ceiling, they could see him in the basement. He was tied to a chair, but he was smiling. Next to him was his laptop, still running the program that had saved all the company's files. "You really think you can stop us?" they heard Linda's voice. I've spent 20 years working on the time box. Your brother's program might have saved the company files, but it also gave us the last piece we needed. Then they heard another voice that made everyone freeze. Good work, Linda. Now we can finally finish what we started. It was Peter's voice, but Peter was right there in the tunnel with them. Or was he? Jenny looked at Peter in shock. He smiled, but not his usual friendly smile. Surprise, he said. Did you really think there was only one of me? Up in the basement, the other Peter laughed the same way. You see, Jenny, both Peters said at the same time, the time box doesn't just keep people young, it can also make copies of people. Linda made the first copy of me 15 years ago. There are 10 of me working in different companies, stealing their secrets. And soon, there will be hundreds of us. Suddenly, Sarah grabbed something from her pocket, a small blue button. I was hoping I wouldn't have to use this, she said. When I worked at the front desk, I wasn't just a receptionist. I was working for someone else. Just as she was about to press the button, the tunnel filled with bright blue light. Standing at the end of the tunnel was another Jenny, but she looked older, with gray hair and wrinkles. Don't press that button, Sarah, the older Jenny said. Not yet. First, let me tell you what really happened 20 years ago. The older Jenny walked closer, her footsteps echoing in the tunnel. I'm you from the year 2044, she said to young Jenny, and Sarah's blue button will destroy everything we've worked for. Everyone stared at Sarah, who was still holding the mysterious button. What do you mean we? Young Jenny asked, backing away from her older self. The older Jenny smiled sadly. Linda isn't the bad guy here. She's been trying to save the world. Those company secrets, they're not what you think. Just then, Tommy's voice came through the crack in the ceiling. He was talking to Linda. I figured it out, he said excitedly. The black boxes in the walls aren't stealing secrets. They're collecting information about a virus, a computer virus that's going to crash every computer in the world next month. The older Jenny nodded. That's right. In my time, the virus destroyed everything. No phones, no internet, no electricity. Millions died. Linda discovered a way to come back in time to stop it. She's been gathering information to create a program to stop the virus. But what about the Peters? Sarah asked, still holding the blue button tightly. The older Jenny laughed. Look at your button carefully, Sarah. What do you see? Sarah looked down and gasped. On the back of the button was a tiny label that said, Property of Peter Jones, 2015. You work for me, said the Peter in the tunnel, but his voice was different now, kinder. All 10 of me. We're not criminals. We're a team of computer experts from the future. We copied ourselves so we could protect more companies from the virus. But we needed everyone to think we were the bad guys, so the real enemy wouldn't suspect us. Suddenly, they heard footsteps above. Through the crack, they saw Detective Bill walking into the basement. Finally found you all, he said with an evil smile. Thanks for leading me to the time box, Linda. My friends at Evil Tech will pay a lot for it. Too bad none of you will be around to see what we do with it. That's the real bad guy, the older Jenny said. Bill works for the people who created the virus. They wanted to use the time box to escape to the past when their virus destroys everything. Young Jenny looked at all the faces around her. Her Aunt Linda, who wasn't really dead. The good Peter who pretended to be bad. Sarah, who secretly worked for future Peter. And her older self who came to help. But something still didn't make sense. If you're really me from the future, young Jenny asked her older self, then you know what happened next. Why do you look worried? The older Jenny's face turned pale. Because this is where everything went wrong in my time. In about 10 seconds, Bill is going to find the tunnel door. In my past, he caught us, took the time box, and the virus destroyed the world. We have to do something different this time. Suddenly, Mary, the FBI agent, pulled out another blue button. I have a confession too, she said. I'm not really FBI. I'm from 2045, a different future than her. She pointed at the older Jenny. And I know how to fix everything, but you're not going to like it. Before she could finish, the tunnel door flew open. Bill stood there pointing something that looked like a gun, but it glowed with strange blue light. Behind him were 3 more Bills, copies he had made of himself. But he hadn't noticed Tommy quietly crawling through the ceiling crack, holding Linda's special phone that could control the time box. Tommy winked at Jenny and pressed a button. Suddenly, the tunnel filled with bright light once again. When the bright light faded, everyone was surprised. They were back in the smart office, but something was different. The office was empty except for one person. It was another Tommy, but he looked like a grown-up. Welcome to 2034, grown-up Tommy said. I brought you here because this is where everything started to go wrong. He pointed to a computer on a desk. Look at the date, April 15th, 2034. Today's the day Bill's company first made the virus. Young Tommy stared at his older self in amazement. So that's why you gave me Linda's phone. You remembered being me and knew what to do. Grown-up Tommy smiled and nodded, but before anyone could say more, they heard laughing. Bill and his copies had come through the time jump too. Thanks for bringing us exactly where we wanted to go, all the Bills said together. They started walking toward the computer. Then something amazing happened. All the janitor Peters stepped out from behind different doors. But they weren't alone. Behind each Peter was a different Jenny from different years. There were young Jennies, old Jennies, and middle-aged Jenny. "Surprise!" said Linda, stepping out with, "You're not the only one who can make copies, Bill. I've been gathering Jennies and Peters from different time, building an army to stop you. We knew you'd follow us here." Bill didn't look worried. "But you're too late. The virus is already in that computer. In 5 minutes, it will send itself to every computer in the world." All the Bills pulled out their glowing guns. Sarah finally spoke up. "Actually, you're the one who's too late." She held up her blue button again. "This isn't just a button. It's a special computer chip with a program that Peter and I created. Well, future Peter and future me created it, and I already put it in that computer an hour ago, when I was pretending to be the cleaner." Everyone watched the computer screen. The virus was trying to spread, but Sarah's program was stopping it. Bill and his copies started disappearing one by one. Without the virus, they would never exist in the future. But then alarms started ringing. "The time jumps are causing problems," grown-up Tommy shouted. "Too many people from different times in one place. It's tearing holes in time itself." Young Jenny had an idea. "Linda, the black boxes in the walls, they weren't just collecting information about the virus. They were collecting pieces of time, too. That's how you stayed young in that old photo." Linda quickly pulled out her phone. "Jenny, you're right. If we connect all the black boxes at once, we can stabilize everything. But we need someone in our original time to switch them on." Just then, Mary, the fake FBI agent, stepped forward. "I can help with that. You see, in my future, I'm not just any agent." She pulled out her badge again, but this time it was different. It said, "Time Police." "But there's one more thing you should know," Mary said, looking serious. "Saving the world isn't enough. There's another problem, bigger than the virus, and only the real Jenny, our Jenny from 2024, can fix it." Through the windows, they could see time itself breaking apart. Different years were mixing together like colors in a paint swirl. They had only minutes to make everything right. But first, Jenny had to make the biggest choice of her life. "Jenny," Mary from the Time Police said quickly, "in every possible future, Smart Office invents something very powerful. A computer that can think like a human. In some futures, it helps people, but in others, it causes big problems. And it all depends on what you do right." Through the windows, they could see past and future mixing together. Cars from different times drove by, old ones, modern ones, and flying cars from the future. People in clothes from different years walked past, looking confused. "But what can I do?" young Jenny asked. "I'm just a regular office worker." Linda stepped forward and held Jenny's hand. "No, you're not. Remember how good you are with computers? That's not just talent. It's in your blood. Your father helped me build the first time box." Suddenly, another person appeared in the office. Everyone gasped. It was Jenny's father. He had disappeared when she was little, the same time Linda had died. "Dad," Jenny whispered. Her father smiled sadly. "I'm from the day I disappeared. I found out something dangerous about computers that think like humans. So I used Linda's time box to hide in different time. I've been watching over you, moving through time, making sure you grew up safe. The computer program you made to catch Jack changing your work files," Tommy said excitedly. "It wasn't just a simple program. It was the beginning of a thinking computer. You made it without even knowing." More alarms started ringing. Mary checked her special Time Police watch. "We have 10 minutes before time completely breaks apart. Jenny, you have to choose. Do you finish making your computer program or not? Your choice will affect every time and every copy of everyone." Jenny looked around the room, at all the different versions of herself, at the Peters who had pretended to be bad to do good, at Sarah, who had secretly protected them, at Linda, who had worked for 20 years to save the world, at her long-lost father, and at her brother Tommy, who had trusted her all along. "Wait," Jenny said. "Maybe we don't have to choose between a good future and a bad one. What if we could combine them?" She ran to the computer and started typing quickly. "My program isn't just for catching people who change files. It learns what's right and wrong. If we connect it to the time box," her father's eyes went wide. "Of course! We can use it to fix the holes in time and teach future computers to help people." He started helping her type, but then the oldest Jenny stepped forward. "There's something else you need to know," she said. "Something that even Mary and the Time Police don't know. It's about what really happened the day Dad disappeared." Before she could finish, a loud crash came from above. Part of the ceiling fell down, and through the hole, they saw something impossible. A huge flying office building from the future, and inside it were hundreds of Bills, all working on computers. "If we can't have the virus," the Bills shouted together, "we'll just drop this whole building through time and crash every computer at once." Tommy grabbed Linda's phone again. "Jenny, whatever you're going to do it fast. That building is from 2054, and it's full of future computers. If it crashes here, everything we're trying to stop will happen anyway." Jenny kept typing, her fingers moving faster than ever. But could she finish her program in time And what was the secret about her father's disappearance that even the time police didn't know? As the future building came crashing down, Jenny's father ran to the time box. "I know how to stop this," he shouted. "The building is connected to future computers. If Jenny's program can talk to them, we can save everything." Just then, the oldest Jenny pulled out an old notebook. "Dad, before you do anything, everyone needs to know the truth. This is your notebook. I found it in 2064. She opened it, and everyone saw pictures of another time box, but this one looked different. There wasn't just one time box, the oldest Jenny said. Dad built two. The second one is hidden under Smart Office, and it's been running this whole time, for 40 years. Jenny's father looked shocked. "But I never finished the second time box. It wasn't working." The oldest Jenny shook her head. "You didn't finish it? But I did. Look at the last page." Everyone crowded around the notebook. On the last page was a child's drawing, stick figures and boxes drawn in crayon. Next to it were complicated computer notes trying to copy the drawing. "That's my drawing," young Jenny said. "I drew it on Take Your Daughter to Work Day, right before Dad disappeared. I was trying to help him fix his broken machine." "And you did help," her father said softly. "Your drawing showed me what I was doing wrong. But when I tried to fix it that day, something went wrong. The machine started pulling in things from different time. I had to jump through time to lead the dangerous parts away from you. That's why I disappeared." Suddenly, Tommy shouted, "Look at the building!" Through the hole in the ceiling, they could see the future building had stopped falling. It was frozen in midair. "The second time box!" Linda said excitedly. "It's been protecting Smart Office all this time, running on the power of Jenny's childhood drawing. That's why all the important time events keep happening here." Mary checked her time police watch. 3 minutes before time breaks completely. "Jenny, your program has to talk to both time boxes at once. It's the only way to fix everything." Jenny sat at the computer, but her hands were shaking. "I can't do it alone," she said. Then she felt hands on her shoulders. It was all the other Jennys from different time. "You're not alone," they said together. "We're all you, and you're all of us." Everyone gathered around. All the Jennys, all the Peters, Tommy and his future self, Linda, Sarah, and Jenny's father. They each knew different parts of the solution from different times. Together, they began to work. But high above in the frozen building, the bills weren't done yet. They had one last trick, something so shocking that even the time police didn't see it coming, and it had to do with the real reason Jenny's father had built the second time box. All the bills in the frozen building started laughing at once. Their voices joined together into one big scary sound. "You forgot about our secret friend," they shouted. Then someone new walked to the building's window. It was older Tommy. "No," young Tommy whispered. "That's me from 2074. But why is he with them?" The oldest Jenny stepped forward. "Because in my time, Tommy got tricked. The Bills promised to save his sister, me, from something terrible that happens in 2074, but they lied to him." Older Tommy from 2074 held up a small black box. "I'm sorry, Jenny," he called down, "but in my time, you died trying to save everyone. I couldn't let that happen again." He pressed a button on the box, and suddenly all the computers in every time started glowing red. "He's using Dad's second time box to take control of every computer ever made," Linda shouted, "even the ones that think like humans." But young Tommy had an idea. He grabbed Jenny's hand and pulled her to their father's notebook. "Look at your drawing again," he said excitedly. "You weren't just trying to fix Dad's machine. You were drawing our family, the stick figures holding hands. You were showing how people need to work together." Jenny looked at her childhood drawing with new eyes. "That's it," she said. "The time box isn't just a machine. It needs human feelings to work right. That's why it's been protecting Smartoff, because it remembers how much I love Dad and wanted to help him." She turned to all the other Jennys. "Quick! Everyone think about someone you love, someone you want to protect. The time box will feel it." All the Jennys closed their eyes. They thought about their family, their friends, and all the people they wanted to save. The Peters, Linda, Sarah, and Mary joined hands with them, adding their own good thoughts. Suddenly, Jenny's old drawing started glowing. It floated up from the notebook, growing bigger and bigger. The stick figures came alive, made of bright light, and started moving. The light figures flew up to the frozen building. When 2074, Tommy saw them, his eyes went wide. Those lights, they looked just like... Tears started rolling down his face. "They look like the pictures Jenny drew for me when we were kids, before everything went wrong." The Bills tried to stop him, but 2074. Tommy dropped the black box. The light figures caught it and brought it down to Jenny. All the computers stopped glowing red. "I understand now." 2074, Tommy called down, wiping his eyes. "The Bills didn't want to save Jenny. They wanted to control the time box. because it runs on love and family feeling. That's something their evil computers could never copy. But just as everyone started feeling relieved, Mary's time police watch started beeping like crazy. "We fixed the computers, but time is still breaking," she shouted. "We have 1 minute left." Young Jenny looked at her drawing, then at all the people around her, all the different versions of herself and her brother, her Aunt Linda, her father, and their friend. She knew what she had to do, but it would change everything. Jenny looked at her childhood drawing one last time. "I know how to fix everything," she said quietly. "The time box doesn't just need love to work. It needs sacrifice, too. Someone has to stay behind and keep all the time separate, like threads in a big blanket." Her father stepped forward. "That's why I disappeared. I was trying to do it alone, but it was too big a job for one person." He held Jenny's hand, "But it's not too big for all of us together." Jenny nodded and turned to her other selves. "If every Jenny from every time works together, we can fix this." But, she paused, "it means none of us will ever go back to our own time. We'll become part of the time box forever, keeping everything safe." Young Tommy started crying. "But I'll lose you again." All the other Tommies looked sad too. Then Sarah spoke up. "Maybe not. Remember, I put my special program in the computer, the one that can think like a human. What if we connect it to the time box?" "Of course," Linda said excitedly. "The program can learn to hold the times apart by itself. It just needs someone to teach it how families and love work." She looked at Jenny's drawing again. Jenny understood. She held up the drawing and pressed it against the computer screen. All the other Jennies did the same thing with their own copies of the drawing that they had kept all these years. Suddenly, the computer started glowing with warm, friendly light. On the screen, they saw new stick figures appearing, drawings of everyone they loved, all connected together. The program was learning about love and family. The time box started humming. All around them, the mixed-up times began sorting themselves out. The future building floated back up and disappeared. The bills vanished one by one, going back to their own time. But the best part happened next. The computer program had learned so much about love and family that it found a way to save everyone. It created a special new time, a good future where all the families could be together. Jenny's father didn't have to disappear anymore. Linda didn't have to stay young forever. All the Tommies and Jennies could live in their own times, but still visit each other. Even Mary from the time police got to go home to her family. 1 month later, at the new smart office, everything was different. The black boxes in the walls now helped protect people instead of spying on. Peter wasn't a janitor anymore. He taught other companies how to use computers safely. Sarah became the head of computer security. And Jenny, she had the best job of all, teaching computers how to help families stay together. Every year on Take Your Daughter to Work Day, Jenny hung her old crayon drawing in the office. Under it, she wrote, "Sometimes the biggest problems can be solved with the smallest acts of love." And somewhere in the time box, a tiny program kept running, drawing stick figures of happy family, keeping all of time safe with the power of a little girl's love for her father.